and I'm joined by Evren Ors, who is our academic director. So the format for today, essentially, Evren's going to present the program to you, the program, the content, the format. I'll then present the admissions process briefly to you. And following that brief presentation, we'll be ready to make it a bit more interactive and take some questions and answers. So yeah, I'll pass you over to Evren.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Evren Ors. I am the academic director of the Executive Master in Finance of HEC Paris, the Anglophone program. That also has two executive certificates, one in valuation, one in asset management. So why did we, let me first say a few words about the background. The school, as you well know, is a top-ranked business school, and in our department, which is the finance department, we have a Master in International Finance for pre-work experience students. So those who are not professionals yet, who may have done maybe an internship or two. And so that program has been ranked top 1 or 2 since the inception of such rankings by the Financial Times. And the HEC Paris Executive Education has always been ranked top 2 worldwide by the Financial Times again. And we're also ranked number 1 or 2 as a business school in Europe by the Financial Times, taking into account all of our programs put together. So the idea was 6 years ago, was to launch a Executive Master in Finance, which is very different than in terms of its structure, than the pre-work experience master. This one is really targeted towards the professionals in a modular setting. So the idea here is that we see a big gap in certain cases between the corporate executives and the financial institutions that they deal with. And the big gap is one that's due to the fact that what is a normal, ordinary business transaction for an investment bank, for a hedge fund, for a venture capitalist, for a private equity firm, are typically not so frequent events for corporate executives. So that we would like both sides to understand each other's perspectives, and that's why we created this Executive Master in Finance. And we have 2 basically types of profiles. One of them is those who come from the corporate sector. That is, those who are finance directors, potential CFOs, and those who project themselves in the executive suite and potentially to a CEO position. And then we also have professionals who come from the financial services firms. And within both groups, some participants, they are in the midst of thinking about what is it that they can do with their careers, and maybe having to switch between jobs or within the same company, but to another position. For example, we have had in the past people who come from the asset management and they want to go into private equity or venture capital. And in the case of the corporate side, we have had people who project themselves to be for a CFO position, basically. So overall, the program exists to help the participants understand the challenges of the financial environment and tools that are available for financing operations through financial institutions that operate nowadays worldwide, as well as financial markets, which are also nowadays worldwide. So the program overview is that for the Executive Master in Finance, you have 5 modules of 8 days. We always start on a Wednesday and end on the next, actually end on the next Thursday. This is a typo, I apologize for that. So we start on a Wednesday, we go until the end of Saturday. Sundays are always off, and then we start on Monday and end on the Thursday. So that makes 8 working days. For the next intake, the modules start in October 2021, and they will end in June 2022. These are the lecture parts, and they would correspond to 60 ECTS credits, European Credit Transfer System credits. Out of the 90 that's for the program, the 30 that remain come from the professional thesis that the participants have to write, which allows them to specialize in particular topics. The topics that are covered in the program, they vary in duration from 1 day to 4 days, depending on the topic. And I'll go through that in more detail. We also have 2 executive certificates, one of them in valuation, the other one in asset management. These certificates are basically 1.5 modules or 12 days taken out of the EMIF, the Executive Mastery in Finance. And these can be used under certain conditions towards the Executive Mastery in Finance. So one condition is that you have to get really good grades while in the executive certificate. And then we also pay really close attention to the evolution of your professional career. That is, once you do the executive certificate, it doesn't give you automatically qualification or a right to participate to the Executive Mastery in Finance. So with that, let me provide you a sort of a flyover of the modules. We start with a online module, so to speak, what we call Module 0. It's only a refresher in basic financial accounting concepts and basic time value of money concepts for those who feel maybe they're a bit rusty on these 2 topics. These are done typically sometime in September. And the accounting refresher is over 2 days, 1.5 hours each. The time value of money refresher is just 1 day. Okay, there's no preparation that's needed. Then we have the first module, which basically brings up everybody to the same level. That's the idea. We start with capital budgeting. We have risk and return for 2 days, financial statement analysis for 1 day. And then on the second part of this module, which is 8 days, like all the other modules, we have financial policy 2 days, and then capital structure and cost of capital. This first module's first 4 days are also part of what's in the executive certificate in asset management. And then the last, all of the 8 days are also part of the executive certificate in valuation. Then in the second module, we go into the coverage of a negotiation seminar, which is 3 days. This was a program that was put together between NYU and Harvard Business School, and the colleague who taught it at NYU is teaching it with us. And because we believe that financial professionals have to be really in their best level in terms of negotiation skills. That's what this negotiation seminar does. We have 1 day of M&A accounting because M&A is one of the topics that we cover a lot. And so consolidation accounting. And then we have in the second part of the second module, over the last 4 days, we have valuation tools, which are 2 days, and valuation number 2, for lack of a better name. This is basically valuation that's taught first by an academic and then by a practitioner. The last 4 days is basically are part of the executive certificate in valuation. Then January 2022, we have module 3, which is basically markets. So financial markets. We'll talk about fixed income and financial engineering in the short term fixed income market, which is 2 days. We'll talk about asset management, 2 days, stock markets, 2 days. And then the last 2 days of the module will be dedicated to an introduction to fintech, everything fintech, so that participants will have a good grasp of what are the main issues. And then the last day is dedicated to blockchains and cryptocurrencies. This module, together with the first 4 days of module 1, makes up the executive certificate in asset management. Module number 4 brings us to March 2022. Here we have 3 days of macroeconomics and country risk analysis, a crucial tool because most of the participants work for international corporations or international financial institutions. We have 1 day of entrepreneurship finance, That's the first part of the module. In the second part of the module, we go back to fixed income, so bond markets, and financial engineering of the bond market, related with bond markets, 2 days. Then we have 1 day of financial regulation, and then 1 day of market microstructure, which deals with all issues that have to do with trading and liquidity in the financial markets, with special focus on the stock markets here. And then the last module brings us to June of 2022. We have 1 day of corporate hedging, 1 day on corporate governance issues, very important these days, 2 days of international finance, and then 4 days of corporate financial transactions. And this module also happens to be the finance major for certain executive MBA students or participants of the HEC Paris. Some of them do take the 5th module as a finance major. So this really recaps what I've said about the executive certificate in evaluation. You take the full first module, and then you take the second part of module number 2. And then this recaps the executive certificate in asset management, which is the first half of the first module and the full of the 3rd module in January. Okay. And here is a sort of brief outline, brief snapshot, if you will, of the lecturers. Most of them are faculty members at HEC Paris. Some of them are practitioners or researchers. For example, Peter Hoffman is a researcher at the European Central Bank. Practitioners include Serge Bedrosian, who's an investment banker, Philippe Enroth, who works in derivatives of fixed income securities, and the rest of the professors are professors of HEC Paris, with the exception of Kopia Georg, who is a faculty member in South Africa, and he teaches fintech. So this is me. I am an associate professor of finance in the finance department at HEC Paris. Like almost all of the colleagues teaching in the program, I have a PhD. Some of them have a PhD in finance, some of them in economics. In my case, it's in finance. I am the academic director of the EMIF and the 2 executive certificates. I do research on banks and their interactions with the real economy, and I've been running this program for the past 5.5 years, and I teach on the first day. Okay. So to give you an idea, Serge Bedrosian has a 20+ years of experience in M&A and private equity. He actually recently changed jobs. He was an investment director at BPI, the French Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now he's in the private sector. And he has 7 years of experience teaching at HEC Paris, and he teaches financial statement analysis and valuation number 2. I apologize for that. There's a typo here as well. Bruno Billet, to give you another example, he is a very well-known academic. He's a professor of finance in our department. He also happens to have a PhD from HEC Paris. He has taught at many highly respected academic institutions, including Toulouse School of Economics, Carnegie Mellon University, University of Oxford, London School of Economics. And he is a renowned academic, but also renowned scientific advisor to many institutions, including the NYSE, Euronext, European Central Bank, and Bank of England. And he has served as an editor of top economics and finance journals, and he has more than 10,000 academic citations, and he teaches blockchains and cryptocurrencies. So I'm not going to go over all the other profiles for the sake of time. I am the academic director, as I mentioned, of the program. I work with Claudia Schneeweiss-Moget, who helps with the running of the program, and who reports to Claudine Chocteau, who is the director of degree and certificate programs at HEC Paris Executive Education. And with that, Jonathan, I don't know if you would like to take over, or would you like me to continue?
Yeah, I mean, we can move through the slides, and I can take over for now. Yeah, so the program is typically we have between 20 and 25 participants, so it's it's a manageable group size, and we typically see that almost every participant comes from a different country. different country, different sector, sometimes public, sometimes private. So the level of diversity is multiple fold. Yeah, Evren, if you could go to the next slide. Yeah, as you can see here, sorry, some of this is actually in French, but you can see here that that there's a number of sectors represented. So once again, it's not profiles purely from the finance sector. Another thing is that, yes, at the moment, the average number of female participants is around 25%. This is something that we are constantly trying to increase. So I think everyone would agree that, with every future intake, we nudge that figure up a little bit more. And I think everyone would agree as well, that this obviously makes the interactions in the classroom far more dynamic and diverse and interesting. I think everyone would agree as well that the finance sector in general is heavily male dominated. So that's something that we're very keen on, is female representation in the classroom in both the certificates and the executive masters. So this is just a quick recap of the calendar that everyone just mentioned.
Yeah, so the 3 of the modules are in our Jouy campus, and then 2 of them are scheduled to be in Paris. We plan on having a face-to-face teaching. Though that said, in October, it might be that some of the participants who are located in countries that have not fully opened up due to COVID crisis, or do not necessarily allow yet, as of that point in time, international travel. To accommodate them, we will allow for what we call hybrid teaching. That is I'm guessing more than two-thirds of the class will be there in person, but then maybe 1/3 to maybe 1/4 might not be able to, and those will participate via Zoom. We have now over the past year have had a lot of experience with this, so we know how to run such hybrid teaching without any issues. One thing I would like to say is that with the COVID crisis, we ended up having a less international intake, the current one, that is more Eurocentric, so to speak. We do still have participants from India, we do still have participants from Russia, from the US, but those typically tend to be expats located in Europe, rather than participants coming from those countries directly. So I'm guessing that with the vaccinations campaigns and picking up speed, this is going to be much less of an issue with the next intake, but I'm not sure that we will have, we might have, again, more of a European representation, from many countries in Europe, but maybe a little less representation from, say, Africa or Southeast Asia or India, for example, where COVID is now is a significant problem to deal with. And the other thing that Johnathon mentioned that's really dear to us is female participation. So again, HEC Paris has always been keen on making sure that everybody gets the disparity of males and females in the financial sector, that the school does its bit to level that discrepancy, and we have excellent female participants every year, and we welcome them, and we are very happy that they move on and continue with their careers very successfully. So this is something that's dear to us, just because we believe in the equality of the financial sector professionals, irrespective of their genders. Then this also repeats sort of the schedule for the 2 certificates. And then I'll let Johnathon maybe say a few words about the selection process.
Right, exactly, yeah. So also, you know, what you've just seen with the calendar, obviously it's a lot of text to take in just a slide. So, you know, if I was going to say, you know, the first step in the admissions process is essentially for you guys to send me your CV or LinkedIn profile so that we can get an initial look at your profile and the suitability for the program. But during that exchange as well, I can obviously share that calendar with you so you can check that it fits with your workload, etc. So that's essentially step one, is sending me the CV or a LinkedIn profile, and then we set up a preliminary interview with myself. So it's a preliminary interview, but it's very much an informal discussion. It's an opportunity for you guys to ask questions about the program, and to ask me any other questions you have about, you know, the logistics and the rest of the application process. But it's also from our side a sense check. The main things that we want to check obviously is level of English, because the program's delivered in English, and to check your professional experience to date. Following that, if that's successful, then you're invited to complete an online application. As you would expect, you know, that's pretty standard. So you'll write essentially a short motivational essay about, you know, why you want to join the program, what's the logic for you in terms of, you know, your career project and next steps. You'll need a couple of references as well, and standard documents, so ID documents and past degree certificates, this kind of stuff to complete the online application. That then passes on to our admissions team, who will analyze the application, and if that looks good, then the final step is a selection interview with Evren. So this is normally, I think, between 45 minutes or an hour. And that's the final step. So the whole admissions process, even before the pandemic, was streamlined like this, all by phone or online. As obviously most of the participants come from outside France, you know, this is the most practical way for us to assess candidates. Following the interview with Evren, you'll have a response normally within a week. And that's the process. It's pretty straightforward. So if you are interested in applying, then I think on the next slide you have my details. Evren, if you, yes, there we go. So that's my email address, ratcliffe@hec.fr. So if you either have any questions or you'd like to begin the application process, you can send me your CV or LinkedIn profile there. And I think we're probably ready to take some questions. So if you have any questions, please use the chat box there. Anything you want to ask, that's fine. And I was just going to say as well that in a couple of weeks, at the beginning of June, we'll be inviting prospects to join the classroom. So we have two dates, early June, and we'll send, if you haven't received it already, we'll be sending invitations to all of you so that you can join those sessions. And essentially that will be an opportunity for you guys to sit in on and take part in some of the real live sessions with the current cohort. So that's really an opportunity for you guys to have a taster of what it's really like. So yeah, that will be coming around in the next 24 hours. I don't think we have any questions yet. Oh, maybe. So the last date you can apply. There's not a fixed deadline. It's recommended, obviously, that you complete the application at least 1 month before the program starts. But as it's very competitive and there are limited places, it makes sense to apply as early as possible to go through the process and to have an offer. So it's recommended to make the application early. In the past, we had a very fixed deadline, but of course, with the international nature of the program and with the current pandemic, it makes sense for us to have more of a rolling admissions. And in terms of GMATs, we don't ask for a GMAT. Maybe Evren can talk very briefly about the final step. Some of the things that you would expect maybe to be tested in a GMAT, I think Evren might cover in the final interview. And in terms of the TOEFL, we no longer ask for that because we conduct the entire process from the get-go in English. And so it will be clear to us whether you're comfortable and confident in participating in English.
Yeah, so it's not like an MBA program or maybe an undergraduate program where you have to provide standardized tests. We look at the CV very closely. In detail, we look at the professional development. We look at the past education and professional aspirations, and in that setting, it makes less of a sense to have you provide. I mean, if you already have it, we'll be more than happy to take a look at it, a GMAT score. But this is not a prerequisite because we're at a level in which we're dealing with executives, and so we will not be that have on average 10 years of work experience. So we will not be imposing a GMAT requirement on them. The English, that level of proficiency that Johnathon has mentioned, is very important because the program is all Anglophone and it's very international. So we would like all the participants to feel very comfortable in expressing themselves both orally, but also in their written English, and because the thesis has to be written in English. So as a result, we pay also attention to that. And if we feel that that may not be fully satisfied, then that will be one of the criterions that we will pay, that we'll have to take into account, obviously. And the interview that we do, which is about 45 minutes, deals with your professional past, aspirations professionally over the next 5 to 10 years. And there's definitely some questions about that will test your basic knowledge of finance and economics. And then in the last part of the interview, you'll be able to ask questions if you still have any questions as of that point in time. Any other questions that I might be able to help answer? Please don't be shy, so that I might be able to maybe clarify things for you, not only for you, but also for the others who are in the session. Again, it's a high quality program. It requires a commitment, so we would like participants to be present in all the sessions. That's why it's a modular program to allow executives to be able to schedule their work around it. It's also a rather small program. I hope we'll be about 25 in October, which means that everybody's expected to participate very actively in the program. So this is something that also has to be kept in mind. You also have preparation before each module, which is reasonable, I think, but there is more than decent amount of readings that needs to be done that are sent to you 1 month prior. Hence the Naman's question, Jonathan's answer to Naman was that we would like you to be settled 1 month prior to the program, because that's where you get the readings package. And then sometimes after the module, there's also some additional work that needs to be done. It depends on the professors and depends on the topics, but it's definitely if you dedicate a little bit of time over the weekends, that's very doable. If you let things pile up to the last second, that maybe it's a bit more of a challenge to get everything read. But doing so makes sure that once you're in the class, you get the most out of the discussions, the participation, the questions, and so on. So coming in prepared is very important. Any questions?
Just to clarify, also, about what we said about the program being delivered as a hybrid when necessary. That really means that you know, it will be delivered live, so you'll still be, you know, required to participate in discussions. So you'd still need, even if you were joining online, you'd still need to take that time off work to join the module. You know, the program, it's not pre-recorded, so it will, even those people joining online will be, you know, for the group work, put into groups with those people in the classroom face-to-face. So there's really, you know, a full-on interaction, even for those people who have to follow either one module or more than one module online just because of travel restrictions. So, you know, the experience for those people both in the classroom and online is you know, is kept as close as possible to the full face-to-face experience.
Yeah.
But that obviously requires that. Yeah, please.
If I may, Jonathan, I also need to add the following. Things have not been clarified yet for HEC Paris Executive Education, but I know that from the HEC Paris Grande École, the program that leads to a master's degree, which is the equivalent, which incorporates the bachelor and a master's degree, basically. The students will be required to have had their COVID shots, COVID vaccinations. And those who come without them will have to be vaccinated and will be interned until their antibody counts go up as recommended by the health authorities. So I'm guessing something very similar will apply in the sense that those participants who will show up on HEC premises will have to provide proof that they have gotten their anti-COVID vaccines. Depending on the vaccine manufacturer, either one or more likely two, and in some cases even three vaccines shots. You will need to most likely provide proof of that, just so that the campus remains an area safe of the disease. Again, I haven't gotten the official clarifications on this, but given the way things are evolving on another program, I'm pretty sure that this will also be the case in for our program, together with other executive education programs. Any other questions? Anything that I can maybe help clarify?
And, you know, if you do want to ask questions, you know, separately, of course, you have my email address there, ratcliffe@hec.fr. If you want to have a chat with myself or even with Evren, that's fine as well. But if there are no more questions for now, then I think we can probably wrap up. And just know that we're both contactable for any questions that you have. And as I said, if you want to take part in those classroom visits, those digital classroom visits at the beginning of June, we'll be sending those round, the invitations around for you to register tomorrow. So I don't know if you want to add anything before we wrap up, Evren, or?
No, I mean, we are very excited that the next intake is shaping up. We are in the process of doing the interviews, so obviously getting the applications. We're also excited that this next intake will be going back to what looks like a quasi-normal in terms of the health situation. Looks like we'll be under control, so we'll be able to go back to our regular classes face-to-face eventually for everybody in the program. And we are very much looking forward to it and leaving these difficult times behind us. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Jonathan, and he'll basically help answer the questions, and then we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Evren. Yeah, so thanks again, everybody, for taking the time to join us. I know that some of you are in very different time zones, so really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, as Evren said, I remain contactable. So all that remains is to say thank you once again and to take care and to stay safe.